a lot of Democratic elected officials have been giving Mamdani basically the old non-endorsement. I have known, this is Chuck Schumer, I have known Zohran Mamdani since we worked together to provide debt relief for thousands of beleaguered taxi drivers and fought to stop a fracked gas plant in Astoria. He ran an, we have a frack, we have like natural gas that you could frack in Astoria. He ran, who knew? He ran an impressive campaign that connected with New Yorkers about affordability, fairness, and opportunity. Notice what he doesn't say. I hereby endorse.
Well, he put a tweet on the tail end of that saying, I look forward to talking with him soon. He did not offer an endorsement. Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries. Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani on a decisive primary victory. Assemblyman Mamdani ran a strong campaign that relentlessly focused on the economy and bringing down the high cost of living in New York City. We spoke this morning and plan to meet in central Brooklyn shortly. Okay. And Slick Willie, who endorsed Cuomo in, I got to say, whoever approved that is guilty of political malpractice. Whoever thought it was a good idea to have the most infamous sex pervert of modern times endorse the second most famous sex pervert in the Democratic Party 2 days before the primary should never work on a campaign again. Congratulations, Zohran Mamdani, on your victory in yesterday's primary election and a well-run campaign. I'm wishing you much success in November and beyond as you work to bring New Yorkers together to tackle the city's challenges and shape a stronger, fairer future. And also, your wife is a hot piece of ass. I will say that right here, right now, and I don't care who hears it.
Well, that's why you can't reply to his tweets. See, they're closed if you go back.
Yeah,
It says
exactly.
only account. Yeah, only women who Bill has stuck his dick in can reply to his tweets. That's the rule.
And Ken Klippenstein, Schumer, Jeffries, and now Bill Clinton have congratulated Zohran Mamdani on his victory. Obama has not. I gotta say, the more time goes by, the more you see that like Obama is really a petulant little bitch.
Yeah,
Like
he's really a bad guy.
He is really a piece of garbage. You know, he humiliated himself with lecturing the brothers on their misogyny. And, you know, people finally woke up to the fact that he's more of a liability than an asset to the party. And he took his ball and went home.
Yeah. Yep.
Pram Thacker pointed this out. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer with synced up posts congratulating Zohran Mamdani, but neither explicitly endorse him. No, they did not. Kathy Hochul. Today, voters made their voices heard, demanding a more affordable, more livable New York City. I hear them loud and clear. Mamdani built a formidable grassroots coalition, and I look forward to speaking with him in the days ahead about his ideas on how to ensure a safe, affordable, and livable New York City. Notice what she didn't say. I endorse.
Well, that's a non-endorsement. Saying I look forward to speaking with you is another way of saying I look forward to sitting you down and telling you what I need from you to give you an endorsement. And if you don't give it to me, I'm not endorsing you. That's what that means.
Speaking to The Independent on Wednesday, Kirsten Gillibrand said she had a lovely call with Mamdani after his win, but similarly declined to offer her immediate endorsement. Quote, we talked about how he inspired voters to support him because of his laser-like focus on affordability, and I asked for a meeting to talk about some issues that I have that I want to talk through. Okay, so you're not actually going to tax our donors, right?
Right.
You're not going to do that, are you? So Hakeem Jeffries went on Morning Joe and was asked what he thought about Mamdani's policies.
What your thoughts are on him ideologically? Is that does he have an ideology that you would want your candidates in 2026 to have?
Well, from the standpoint of House Democrats and what our focus has been, Clearly, we have an affordability crisis in the United States of America, and our focus will continue to be on driving down the high cost of living in this country. Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down, they're going up. He's crashing the economy in real time. His tariffs are going to impose thousands of dollars in additional cost on everyday Americans per year. And he may even be driving us toward a recession. It's the reason why Donald Trump has become so unpopular. It's because he's failed the country on the economy. And so our vision is going to be for an affordable America: work hard, play by the rules, live the good life, provide a comfortable living for yourself and for your family. That means being able to actually afford a home, educate your children, have access to health care, go on vacation with your children and your family every now and then. And of course, Joe, one day retire with grace and dignity.
So
about Mamdani, who's that?
Yeah. And not to mention the fact, I mean, that's just an absurd series of platitudes coming from somebody whose campaign coffers are always overflowing with money for whom, with money from people for whom their interests are completely at odds with everything he just described.
100%
for working people. And talk about lack of talent. Like Nancy Pelosi at least had a certain drunken crypt keeper on a bender kind of compelling interest about her. This guy's just, and Donald Trump is, he's bad, and we want people to be happy.
No, the only reason this guy is where he is because he is a magnet for all that money that you just talked about. He raises a ton of money from the real estate lobby, and of course,
and so much of that money is in New York.
Well, yes, it's in New York from AIPAC too. 1.7 million from AIPAC.
Yep. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a side of this I want to take a look at because I suspect over the next several months there's going to be a lot of debate about what you do with a guy like this who has a lot of the right opinions, who's leading in the mayor's race in New York City, who has a good chance of actually winning. For people who are post-duopoly, people who don't want to fuck with the Democratic Party. And you're going to see, and this is really what this is about, people like Pod Save America who want to jump out in front of the parade now and how you handle that. So Sirota says, thoughts and prayers for the Pod Save guys, the Abundance guys, and all the other Dems up late crafting 2 different versions of press releases podcast to go out tomorrow night, either claiming Zoran's win as their own or claiming Cuomo's win as proof they're right to bash the left. Now, I think he's probably right that they were ready to go either way. These people are not known for their integrity. But John Favreau responded, I genuinely feel sorry for David. Just be happy a candidate you believe in won instead of firing off half a dozen tweets because you're angry the people you don't like said nice things about him. So sad and bizarre. Now, Sirota answers this pretty well. My political ideology was sharpened in watching Obama and the people around him squander their mandate on behalf of their donors. The betrayal destroyed the Democratic Party and created the conditions for Trump. I think politicians should try to build broad coalitions and reach out to everyone, including the pod johns. That is politicians' role. Good job, Zoran. But it's others' role to make clear that these elections have stakes beyond vibes, that there are very real factions, and that those who treat politics like sports are part of the problem. I think the Pod Save guys and the other usual suspects now waving the abundance flag have been part of the effort to anesthetize liberals into seeing politics as a vapid sport and embracing the complacent status quo politics of the past. It's their business model, and it has offered them riches, status, and fame. I think they see the political environment now shifting. They see an awakening with incredible nights like tonight and with inspiring campaigns like Zoran's. And they are going to try to quickly shapeshift and suddenly position themselves as cheerleaders of a center-left populist movement they tried to euthanize over the last 15 years. To that I say, better late than never, and welcome to the party, guys. If suddenly Zoran's populist politics are your politics, great. But I also remain highly circumspect about their motives and principles because I'm not a goldfish. I don't forget my entire world every 15 minutes. They unapologetically participated in and enforced the Obama era politics that got us to this horrible moment in history. If they've changed, great. We will see. But one thing I don't want or need is Jon Favreau's fake pity. I'd rather he just fess up, be honest, and apologize for the neoliberal politics that he participated in and normalized, and that brought us to such a terrible moment in the American story. That would be a start. Yeah, man. I not one word there to disagree with. And yeah, that's going to be something that I suspect is going to be a big topic of conversation. I don't want to over determine what one primary race in a very unique situation where the establishment candidate was a major, major sex criminal and one of the most despised and loathed political figures in the country. I don't want to over determine what that means. At the same time, I do think the fact that New York skews younger than most cities with an average age of 38 is indicative of the generational shift that a lot of people anticipated would happen as that under 30 that went for Bernie Sanders by 80% started to become a larger portion of the electorate, that it would start to shift the electorate towards these kinds of politics. Also, I don't think you can overstate how much the spectacle of the genocide in Gaza radicalized people and pushed them towards left politics. But then, yeah, you look at these people like Pod Save America, and not, I'm sure Sirota knows this, but just to flesh out what he's saying a little bit, the Pod Save people didn't invent the politics as spectator sport thing. That came in with cable news. You know, Chris Matthews, that was his whole show, right? If you take in politics that way, it's all about I live for the horse race. That was Chris, Chris Matthews' whole thing, and it conditions you to accept that as a reasonable way to assess politics. And it's all about the gamesmanship and the chess match and the figures in the campaign and the brilliant strategic maneuvers they executed to outmaneuver their opponent. And yeah, I mean, it's shallow and it's vapid. The Pod Save guys just took that style to a new generation, but they certainly didn't invent it. What's, I guess, maybe really stomach churning about people like Pod Save is they present themselves with the aesthetics of alternative media while really they're cable news for a new generation with a different aesthetic sensibility. But what he said there was absolutely right. Do you want to say anything before I go on?
No, we can go.
All right. So Elizabeth Warren creating some consternation among left radicals endorsed him. Zoran's inspiring campaign showed what grassroots movements can achieve when we fight for bold policies. His focus on government serving the people, not billionaires, will make life more affordable for NYC. I strongly support Zoran Mamdani. He'll be a fantastic mayor. And he thanks her for it, like you do. This means a great deal to me, Elizabeth Warren. Thank you for your leadership, your fight for working families, and your support. Fiorella Isabel, I chose this one tweet. She's not alone. A lot of people feel this way, but this kind of encapsulates the feeling. U.S. Americans, no one getting bombed gives a rat's arse about your Democrat king. Gross that all it took was PR to rehabilitate genocidal Democrats backed by Israel has the right to defend itself, Bernie, and progressives who now capitalize on genocide for political expediency. Okay. All right. So we'll address that. This is what Max had to say. not in response to her, independently. After AOC, I view every candidate cultivated and endorsed by DSA with skepticism, but I can still offer a hopeful take on the NYC primary. Cuomo made the race a referendum on Israel. He even volunteered for Netanyahu's legal team, and Israel lost. That's pretty much where we are. Glenn Greenwald. Soon as Zoran began running, his high potential was clear, not just due to political talent, but he canvassed NYC streets after 2024 to ask Trump voters what drove them. He made economic populism, not identity politics, his focus. Cuomo ran on Israel and establishment support. Yes. Owen Schroyer. Make no mistake about it, Mamdani's win in NYC tonight is the first sign of Israel fatigue reaching the voting booth. Yes, they will literally vote for a foreign-born socialist as long as he doesn't kneel for Israel as Cuomo did. This will reach 2026 midterms and 2028 presidential. All right, so to those points, all of those last three tweets are really focused on his position on Zionism and Israel. So let's take a look at some of what he said about that.
Mamdani, would you welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu to New York City for whatever he comes for, given the US is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the US, unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the US is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the federal administration.
Okay. Matt Gates tweeted this out. Hey, if you're wondering how this guy won, and you know what? I think I might owe Matt Gates an apology because I covered him kind of flipping on Iran the other day, and some people were saying, no, he was being sarcastic. And indeed, he did go on and attack the Iran policy later on, so I might have gotten that wrong. But here is an ad that Mamdani put out. Now, this is very New York, but I think you'll get the drift of it even if you're not from here.
Suffering from a crisis, and it's called halalflation. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of this. How much does a plate of halal cost right now from this truck?
$10.
$10. Chicken over rice, lamb over rice, $10.
$10?
Yeah.
When you're a street vendor, you have to pay for the food, the plates. How much do you have to pay for your permit?
Before it was 22K.
17,000.
How much does a license cost if you get it from the city?
I think 400.
And who are you paying?
The permit owner.
You're not paying the city.
No.
You pay the permit owner $22,000 just so you can sell this food.
Yes.
And who is this?
A random guy.
Have you ever applied for a permit?
Yeah, I'm applied and no come anything.
It's long wait. I'm number 3,800 something. And
After 2 years, you're number 3,800.
yes.
These are the 4 bills that are sitting in the city council right now, which would give these vendors their own permits and make your halal more affordable. But Eric Adams hasn't said a single word about them. If you own the permit, then how much would you charge for the plate?
$7.
$8.
$8.
Would you rather pay $10 for a plate of halal or $8?
$8.
$8. I think $8 is the way to go.
If I was the mayor, I'd be working with city council from day one to make halal $8 again.
Oh, how would it taste?
Tastes like $10, but it should be 8.
Okay, so to explain for people who are not from here. All right, so New Yorkers haven't eaten that hot dog shit since like the 70s or 80s. Like we don't eat those. We used to like eat a hot dog for lunch. The very common cheap lunch for a New Yorker are those halal carts where you go, you get the chicken and rice plate. It's tasty, it's cheap. Before COVID, those were like $6. It was $6, a big plate of food. And yeah, I knew about this from tour guiding because people would always ask about these carts. So I looked into it. Yeah, because they're not able to get a license from the city, they wind up going to somebody who holds these licenses and they have to pay them an exorbitant amount of money. And that's why if you have one of these carts in your neighborhood, you'll see the same guy there at 6 a.m. He's there 6 p.m. These guys break their asses to make that payment that they're giving to some middle person who's just making money off holding that license. And yeah, now those plates have, like everything else, the inflation has gone up tremendously. So this I think is really the question. Can people take yes for an answer? Like, okay, you've got a guy running in the most fucking Zionist city on earth outside of Israel, literally, who is saying he will arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he shows up here, who ran a campaign arguing so much of what the left has been arguing, that you got to go out and talk to Trump voters about why they voted that way. You got to talk to them about economics. He's essentially talking about, nationalizing the grocery stores within the context of a municipality, municipalizing the grocery stores. What do you need to say, okay, we're not, because of all the reservations about the Democratic Party, about DSA, we're not like, if this were 5 years ago, we'd be telling people to donate. We'd be telling people to volunteer. I'd be volunteering. I'm here. I'm not doing that because he's running as a Democrat, because I'm suspicious of the DSA. I get all that. But to emphatically insist that people reject him, like, one, take yes for an answer. And two, I got to ask, if that's the stance you're going to take. Okay, so where are you steering this whole thing? Like, where do you think you're going with this? As I said with Shama, you got a red army behind you? Like, you got an army, you're going to sweep City Hall tomorrow and install the new People's Republic of New York or wherever the fuck you live? Like, what are you steering people towards? Like, bitching online and you can all pat yourselves on the back about how pure you are, about how he went on Jen Psaki. I'm done with it. Come on, man. Come on. Like, yes, I cannot see I can't see ever again going out like I did for Bernie, like for a Democrat. I mean, who knows? Maybe things will change. The party will fall apart to the point that people like this dominate it more, and I would feel like I'd get involved. That's not happening anytime soon. So I don't see myself getting involved in any Democratic campaign in that way anytime soon. But to not take the win, and to the point you were making earlier, it's very demoralizing to people. You beat the Zionists on their home turf. Relish it. Celebrate it. That's something you should be using to inspire people instead of going right to, well, Elizabeth Warren likes him. Well, that tells you what you need to know. Come on, man. That's not a movement. That's a fan club. That's the people who are obsessed with who's going to play Iron Man. Like, you're reducing politics to that. Sorota's talking about reducing politics to a game. You're reducing politics to like what manga you like. You're reducing it to some kind of a niche bitch fest. And yeah, this is real. To Sorota's point, you're talking about real people's lives. Yo, man, if he actually did that with socializing grocery stores, I live in Harlem, man. That would make a big difference for a lot of people who live in Harlem. You go into a bodega now, man. A bacon, egg, and cheese. Last time I got one was like freaking $6.50. It was $3 before the pandemic. People can't afford that around here. So yeah, I can see that there's going to be a lot of that going on over the next few months. And I mean, that's my position on it, and I think we're together on that.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I don't really I see it more as a referendum on Zionism, Zionist propaganda, on billionaire influence. I mean, the fact that you have so many scumbags, just about every Zionist scumbag from both major parties, Democrat, Republican, shitting their pants over this, is an indicator of the progress that we, as a broader movement, have made. And
have fought very hard for.
And have fought very hard for. So if you want to keep the momentum going, you have to tout that progress because that's how you grow it. You can't just dismiss it. Yes, she's running as a Democrat. There are major limitations to that. Major limitations to that. Part of one limitation is you can't tell Elizabeth Warren to go fuck herself when she endorses you. Like that's just not going to happen, right? And it's for that reason that, I'm not telling anybody to donate. I wouldn't tell anybody to, go canvass or get involved because there are obviously major limitations. And yes, a better than 50-50 chance that he will under-deliver should he maneuver his way into office. To me, it's simply a matter of what Max said, which is the Israel lobby and their stooges in both major parties made this a referendum on the influence of the Israel lobby. And you can either beat them and be proud of having beat them, or you can beat them and pretend you didn't really beat them because he thanked Elizabeth Warren for endorsing him.
Exactly.
To me, that's just pretending that you didn't win anything because what? Because a guy running as a Democrat said thank you to another Democrat? Yeah, he's running as a Democrat. Would I rather he do what Shama's doing? Yeah, of course. Of course. Sure. And if he did do what Shama was doing, then I would put his link up on the screen and I'd tell you to donate. And I'm going to fly out to Seattle and campaign for Shama because she's running as an independent. I'm not going to do that for Mamdani. There are limitations as to what I will do for anyone.
And he doesn't even have to fly.
Right, exactly, yeah. I don't even have to fly to do it for Mamdani, but I won't. Like, there are limitations to how far this can go. Therefore, there are limitations to what investment I would make and advise other people to make when you're running inside the two-party system. And those limitations are very strict. And there's a very low ceiling as to what I would advise people to do. If you're running outside the duopoly, it's a much different story. But nobody should be surprised that he accepted the endorsement of AOC and Warren. Because he's running as a Democrat. Now, again, you can use that as justification to just naysay the entire effort. But what you're doing there is you're taking a victory away from a pro-Palestine movement that rallied around him. I don't think he wins this nomination without the pro-Palestine people, because you have to understand his competition is saying outright, Eric Adams has already done this, adopting the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism as a legally binding standard constituting what you can and cannot say about the Israel-Palestine issue, which means under a mayor who won't do that, it's going to be a lot easier to protest for divestment of these schools from Israel. That is a very specific and significant difference, right? When it came to Kamala versus Trump, there was not a significant difference between them because they were both pro-genocide. Right. And so they were both just so far beyond the pale that you can't say there's no differences between Kamala and Donald Trump. My position is those differences did not matter big picture because you cannot vote to rubber stamp a genocide. That's not the case in this example. There has got to
be something you won't vote for.
Exactly. And in this example, there are plenty of meaningful differences between Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, and Zohran Mamdani. And to deny that is just to deny reality. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
And on a macro level, I think this is a very good time to think about this because hopefully it will come up. Hopefully this won't be the last victory. It's really, you could argue, the first victory of the left in a very, very, very long time, meaningful victory. You got to ask yourself what victory looks like. I got into this a little bit with Shama. The populists basically came up with all the key ideas that ended up being the New Deal 40 years later. Do you think the populists were not angry about the way that their movement was treated? They swept the legislature in Kansas right out of the gate, and then the two parties got together and destroyed them and crushed them. But then, not very long after that, you have Theodore Roosevelt running on antitrust legislation, their idea. Do you think they said, we're not voting for Roosevelt, he's a Republican? I mean, I guess some of them did. I mean, but would you rather him not have done that? And of course, FDR. I mean, I'm sure a lot of dyed-in-the-wool radical communists voted for FDR, even though he didn't represent the revolution that they believed in, because he was executing a lot of their program, a lot of what they did believe in. In the end, they saw, well, this is going to be better for workers, even if it's not everything I want. That's what you have to ask. Like, yes, I agree that this system is irredeemable and it needs to collapse. You could argue what created the room for FDR to do what he did is, in many ways, the system had collapsed. It was the Great Depression, and then he had the room to do that. But do you just always take your ball and go home, even when you're getting what you want, even when your ideas have been adopted by an establishment candidate because they're an establishment candidate? Do you attack them? Do you pillory them? Again, like, we're not getting involved in the campaign because he's a Democrat. If he were an independent, we would. But to savage him for thanking people for endorsing him when you got this guy promising to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu in New York of all places, do you realize what kind of a victory that is? So yeah, man, take the win. That's our opinion, I think. Take the win. Don't demoralize people. Keep that skepticism of the Democrats and the DSA. It's well earned, and I have no doubt, no matter how this plays out, it will be borne out whether he gets elected or not. Yeah, they're snakes, not to be trusted. But take the win and think about what you're trying to accomplish. And really ask yourself, well, if somebody is going to execute a lot of policies that I care about, but I don't like who they run with, I don't like the party they're a part of, does that mean it's my job to make sure that Netanyahu's lawyer or some other goon like that gets elected? Like, what's the outcome there? What's the end game? And again, if your end game is revolution, okay, are you in a position to bring about that revolution now? Like, do you have the means to bring about this revolution? No? Okay. Well, then if you're not going to participate and you're not going to create a revolution, well, then you're just bitching online. That's
well, what you got to do
all
is
that
also,
is at that point.
Even beyond the campaign, troll the Zionists. Troll the Zionists.
Yeah.
They lost. Troll them. Yep. You have to prove to them that their bullshit is not going to work. If their bullshit worked, you would not have won.
And troll the billionaires.
You would not have won.
Billionaires are of one voice about this.
Yeah.
Please clap.